An electric car battery loses roughly 2% of its capacity every single year, even if you never fast charge it and treat it perfectly. That's not a manufacturing flaw. It's basic chemistry that no battery design has fully solved yet. EV battery degradation comes from two separate processes running simultaneously. Calendar aging happens purely from the passage of time, regardless of how much you actually drive the car. Cycle aging happens specifically from charging and discharging the battery repeatedly. A car sitting in a garage for a year still degrades somewhat from calendar aging alone, while a car driven constantly and charged daily accumulates cycle aging on top of that. Both processes are driven by the same underlying chemistry inside each battery cell, they just get triggered by different conditions. Inside every lithium-ion cell, a thin layer called the solid electrolyte interphase, or SEI, forms naturally on the surface of the negative electrode. This layer is actually necessary. It protects the electrode from directly reacting with the electrolyte in a way that would damage the cell immediately. But the SEI layer isn't static. It slowly grows thicker over the battery's life. And every bit of lithium consumed to grow that layer is lithium that's no longer available to store usable charge. This single mechanism, gradual and mostly unavoidable, accounts for a significant share of the capacity loss a battery experiences purely from calendar aging, independent of how the car is driven. Every chemical process inside a battery speeds up at higher temperatures, including the degradation processes nobody wants sped up. Batteries that regularly experience high temperatures, whether from hot climates, fast charging, or aggressive driving that heats the pack, degrade measurably faster than identical batteries kept cooler. This is exactly why modern EVs dedicate so much engineering to thermal management systems, liquid cooling loops that keep the battery pack within a tighter temperature range than the ambient environment would allow on its own. A battery that spends its life in Arizona heat without adequate cooling will typically show meaningfully more degradation after 5 years than the same battery in a temperate climate, even with identical mileage and charging habits. Fast charging pushes a large amount of current into the battery in a short window, and that speed comes at a chemical cost. At high charge rates, especially in cold temperatures, lithium ions can fail to properly insert into the electrode structure and instead deposit directly onto its surface as metallic lithium, a process called lithium plating. Once lithium plates onto the electrode surface, that lithium is permanently lost to the battery's usable capacity. It can't be reversed by later charging or discharging normally. This is why manufacturers increasingly limit fast charging speed at low temperatures, and why frequent daily fast charging tends to degrade a battery noticeably faster than routine overnight slow charging at home. Lithium-ion cells experience the most electrochemical stress when they sit at very high or very low states of charge for extended periods. Recent large-scale data analysis covering tens of thousands of vehicles found that degradation accelerates specifically once a battery spends more than around 80% of its total time sitting at or near a full charge or near empty. This is the direct reasoning behind manufacturer advice to routinely charge to 80% for daily driving rather than 100%, and to avoid letting the battery sit empty for long stretches. The occasional full charge for a long trip isn't the problem. It's the chronic, day-after-day habit of resting at the extremes that accumulates real long-term damage. Large fleet studies analyzing tens of thousands of real EVs on the road, rather than lab-controlled test cells, currently put average battery degradation at roughly 2 to 2.5% capacity loss per year. That rate has been trending slightly upward in recent data, specifically because fast charging has become more common as charging networks expand and drivers rely on it more for convenience. At that rate, a battery might retain somewhere around 80 to 90% of its original capacity after 8 to 10 years, which for most owners translates into a noticeable but manageable reduction in real-world range rather than a sudden failure. Most manufacturer battery warranties are built directly around this expected degradation curve, typically guaranteeing a minimum retained capacity, often around 70%, over 8 years or a set mileage threshold. Manufacturers and battery researchers generally agree on a short list of habits that meaningfully slow degradation. Charging to around 80% for routine daily driving rather than defaulting to a full charge every night, avoiding letting the battery sit empty for extended periods, minimizing unnecessary fast charging when a slower option is available, and parking in shade or a garage when possible in genuinely hot climates. What tends to matter far less than owners assume is total mileage on its own. Two identical vehicles with wildly different total distance driven can show similar degradation if their charging habits and thermal exposure were similar, because calendar aging and charge state stress dominate the outcome more than raw miles traveled. This is part of why used EV valuations increasingly weigh charging history and climate exposure, alongside odometer readings when estimating remaining battery health. None of this means EV batteries are fragile or a bad long-term bet. Degradation this gradual is exactly what the warranties and the underlying chemistry are built to expect. It just means how you charge day to day, more than how far you drive, is quietly deciding how much range you'll still have in 8 years.